Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. This is the second SBDC webinar of the day already, so hopefully we're seeing you again. If not, welcome. My name is Kelsey Reardon, and I am with the state office, which is hosted by USM right in Portland. And we are joined by Maine SBDC at AVCOG Business Advisor and Center Director, Lori Allen, who's going to be helping us all with networking because we all hate it. And that's why we're here today. So I also am hoping to learn some tips to move forward into the world with. So you're in great company with us today. If you are not familiar with the Maine SBDC, we are the Small Business Development Centers, and we're a federally funded program. So every state has their program, and these centers are throughout the state, and then there are business advisors in each center. So we cover the whole state, and we cover different topics and different industries and just about anything you could think of. So if you request advising on our website, you'll get connected with the closest advisor to you location wise, although we are doing most everything still by Zoom. But we also have really specific like industry specialists. So once you are set up in our system, you can get connected and determine if your closest advisor is the most helpful. Maybe you have a food specialty, maybe you have a we have a couple eco-tourism specialists. So there are no stupid questions. There's no small questions. We are here to help with just about anything. And if we can't answer your question, we can find somebody who can. So we can't give legal advice or I believe accounting advice, but we have an accounting specialist that we could connect you with. And so all of our contact information will be in my follow-up email this afternoon, including a link to sign up for advising. So if you're not already set up, we'll connect you there. That follow-up email will include the slides from today's presentation, as well as a link to the recording. So if you need to jump off early or you just want to sit back and listen, you can always go back to that recording later and double check things or rewind. Please use the chat feature to introduce yourself. Let us know maybe where in the state you are, maybe what industry you're in, possibly your least favorite aspect of networking, a fun fact you want us to know about you. This is a great opportunity to network, even though you don't want to. So use this as an opportunity to push yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit and try something new. You're in a, I like to say you're in a brave space. I can't guarantee it'll be safe, but you're welcome to share, be vulnerable, ask questions. We're not here to judge. We are here to help. So, keep an eye out for my follow-up email. If you have any questions at any point, stick those in the chat, but also you could respond to any email that you have ever received from me and it will end up in the same place. So feel free to reach out after the fact as needed. I love seeing everyone introducing themselves in the chat, so carry on with that. But otherwise, I will pass it over to Lori.
Alrighty, guys. So thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with me. I am oddly excited to do this webinar. I will say definitely, I don't care if you keep your video on, at least for most of it anyway, but I do plan on using the chat and you know, getting input and questions and answers and suggestions from you guys. This is absolutely a safe space. So no question, is there something you're in particular struggling with? Let's you know, try to help you solve your problems. I'll tell you a little bit about me to start with. I'm a native Mainer, and as usual, Kelsey, my screen is freezing up on me.
That's all right.
Despite the fact that, oh, there we go. Okay, so I've been here, left, came back a million times. I live in Brunswick now. And I've been working in economic and community development for over 20 years. And I've spent about half that time working for SBA affiliated technical assistance programs. So I've been here at the SBDC for 2.5 years. And prior to that, I worked for a women's business center in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And so I've been doing one-on-one counseling with small business advisors for almost 10 years. And so probably most importantly, though, is I am one of the most introverted people on the planet. And it doesn't mean I don't like people. In fact, I actually really love people. You can't do this job if you don't like people. I love working with my clients. I love hearing their stories and helping them fix things. But put me in a room with people I don't know, and it's like physically painful for me. And so I just want you to know that I have been that person who I have to sit in my car and psych myself up for networking events. I have hidden in my fair share of bathrooms. I have wanted to hide under tables. I have perfected what, the quote unquote Irish goodbye, where you just sort of leave and hope nobody notices. Like, I've done it all. And so what I really wanted to do, why I want to do this workshop now, is we're sort of starting to come out of our shells from the past 2.5 years of pandemic land. We're starting to see more events and more in-person gatherings. I went to my first networking event last week, which was great practice for me, because even though I talk to people every day, I still have this fear, like I feel like I've forgotten how to be social and how to have conversations. And I find that, I'm the same, if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people. And so I thought this was a good, timely session to have right now. And so what I thought this would be a good term, to share with you guys what I've learned and what's helped me. And then you guys feel free to chime in on things that have worked for you. So I would love for you to put in the chat, why do we feel like we have to network anyway? Like why do we feel compelled to do this? Why do we think it's important? Why are you here this morning and forcing yourself to do something that you hate? And just put it in the chat. I'm going to wait for a second.
And some of the introductions people have mentioned. So we have a couple, like a CEO who's an introvert that's struggling. There's a couple of those.
Yep. Okay. To locate resources, opportunities. Sugar. Okay. Oops. Okay. Expand business, create commuting is networking. It's hard to step outside of our social bubbles. Absolutely. Locate resources to have time, leverage others' expertise, to get to know the community and for the community to know me and the services I offer, connect with a bigger world, find more people to buy jewelry, host parties for the day job, getting the word out. Yes, yes. Okay. So women do not feel comfortable reaching out on their end. Sure, absolutely. So I think one of the most important things, and there's a little bit of this running through the thread on the chat, is visibility. People need to know who we are, right? And getting to know people in person is so much more different than just seeing an ad in the newspaper or getting a Facebook ad or connecting with social media. Getting to know people one-on-one. If people don't know you and know what your business is about, they don't know you exist. And absolutely, networking is important to make those connections that can lead to leads or referrals, and making those connections both from a business perspective as well as building community. I noticed somebody mentioned that in the comments. It's also about establishing your credibility. A lot of us do work as solopreneurs and as entrepreneurs that it's really, you're asking people to take a huge leap of faith. So for example, if I'm an accountant and I want other small businesses to hire me, there has to be a certain level of trust, right? Because my clients are trusting me with their entire financial situation, right? And so it's not just enough to say, oh, I'm an expert accountant and, I went to school for accounting, I know what I'm doing. They also have to trust you. And if you're doing things related to health or related to helping people feel better, you need to develop those relationships and develop trust. And it's really, again, it's something that's hard to do via social media or advertisements. It's really getting to know people. Being part of the community is incredibly important, connecting with others, not just on a business perspective, but also as a personal thing. As many of you have probably found out, being a small business owner can actually be really lonely. And I know that years ago when I had a consulting business, I wouldn't talk to people for days on end. I was just sitting at my computer typing away. And by Wednesday, as introverted as I am, I would get to the point where I felt like dissociated from the world. Like I needed to go talk to somebody, right? And so networking events can give you that opportunity to like get out of your house, right? Even pre and post pandemic, get to know people who are having the same struggles that you are having as a small business owner. And getting to meet people who speak your language as a small business owner can be really, really helpful and can help you deal with those feelings of isolation as a small business owner. It can also help build your confidence. Particularly with women, there have been studies that show the difference between male entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs is confidence. And as you start to get really good at networking, as you build your skills, it helps you build confidence. It helps you be a much more confident small business owner. And then in turn, you're going to reap the rewards of the networking you're doing out of that, building your own confidence. And then finally, and again, I think somebody's mentioned this a couple times in the chat, but absolutely learning something new. A lot of times networking events have a speaker, and you can learn tremendous amounts from the speaker. You can learn from people sitting at your table, networking table, and I think that's one of the most important things, is just going into networking with that learning mindset. What am I going to learn from this event, right? So now I want you to tell me, we know why we have to do this, and there's lots of great reasons to network. Why is it so hard then, right? Like, it's sort of like, I know eating vegetables is really important. It's really good for me, and I can tell you why, but do I have to force myself to eat my broccoli so my daughter will eat her broccoli? Absolutely. So why don't you guys put in the chat and tell me, why is this hard? What do you find hard about networking? Vulnerable, yes. It's hard to get a no. Giant sales, yes. Okay, starting a conversation, all right. Yeah, all these things are, yes, super awkward. Introvert, but work with the public. I hear you, I see you. It's so overwhelming to walk in a crowded room, and it's like, where do you go first? What do you do? Yeah, lots of introverts. I found my people. Natural connections, yes, natural connections. We're gonna, absolutely. So for me, a big part of my fear is there a networking event specifically for introverted people? No, but there should be. But the problem is probably no one would come. So for me, when I started having to network for my work, for my job, I had this terrible imposter syndrome. I have all this experience, I have a master's degree, but I walk into this room and like my mind would go blank and I'd be like, who am I? Why am I here? Like, these people are all really successful and I'm just little old Lori and this is what I do. And I was really kind of minimizing my knowledge and my expertise. And I think a lot of women have that issue too, this imposter syndrome. And it can make being in these environments really challenging. And that's flipping back to why it's so important to build your confidence and be able to do these things, because it helps with that imposter syndrome. Another thing is that I'm afraid of being that guy. And I'm not picking on men here, but if you've been to 1 or 2 networking events, there's always someone in the room that you can see them coming and you want to avoid them. And you don't want to be that guy who everyone's trying to avoid, because you know he's going to give you a hard sales pitch. He's going to hound you, and you can be uncomfortable, and you don't want to turn into that guy. But where's the happy medium, right? I'm also very uncomfortable making small talk. Okay, I am a 7th generation Mainer on my dad's side. Like I want to let's cut to the chase. Let's have a meaningful conversation. I don't want to talk about the weather. I can look outside and see what the weather is. Okay, I'm terrible at making small talk. It can create anxiety, right? It's an anxious feeling when you walk into that room with people you don't know. Some of us we don't like meeting new people. It's really, really hard for us. And somebody mentioned here a time commitment. It can feel like a waste of time. You're setting aside time from your busy schedule to go do this networking event. And, some of them are low cost, but some of them can be a little expensive. And so there may be a pressure to feel like, am I going to get my money's worth out of this? And am I going to get my time commitment out of doing this? And then finally, there's like a pressure to sell in our heads. Now, for me, I don't sell a product, but I certainly, I want to build my clients. I want to reach out to as many people as possible. And particularly early on in my career, I would feel that pressure, like I've got to make these connections and I need to talk to this person or this event is a total failure. And that sales perspective was what really was keeping me in that anxiety mode, right? It wasn't until I really switched my thinking about how to approach networking that it became easier. Because ultimately, it's not about sales. Networking is not about going somewhere and making a sale or scheduling appointments right at that point in time, okay? Networking is about playing the long game, okay? And when you start thinking about it in that way, it really helps you decrease your anxiety and focus more on building those really meaningful relationships that over the long term are going to lead to building your business. Make sense? So if networking is not sales, then what is it? We've talked, there's been a lot of great comments in the chat. A lot of people feel like they're chasing your tail kind of thing. Network is number one, it's relationship building. And again, particularly for small businesses, it goes back to that trust factor, right? Getting to know someone. You're much more likely to hire someone for a need, somebody that you know, or a friend of a friend, right? I went to a networking meeting last week, and this woman, I met her, and she just gave me an overview of what she did. She wasn't a sales pitch or anything, but I was really interested in learning more. And so after the session, I looked on our website and I was like, oh my gosh, I would really like to learn more about what she does and potentially. And so I shot her an email and I'm going to make an appointment with her later on next month. And so that's like, for her, that's how you want it to be. You want it to be a relationship. You're talking to somebody, they want to know more about what you do. There's no hard sales pitch. Conversely, there was another woman I met at this networking event. She doesn't need my services. I don't need hers, but I can tell you that within the next month or two, I'm going to have a client who needs that person's services. So I'm going to add her to my list of service providers. And, you know, it might take her a month or 6 months or even a year to wind up with a referral that's generated from me, but it will happen because I met her and she's a lovely person and she does good work. And I feel comfortable saying to clients, hey, you should, you know, you can check her out. She's one of the people that I would recommend for her services. Another aspect of networking is really about information gathering. You're learning about who does benefit from your services. Do you have your target market in mind? Is it the right target market for your products and services? Networking is a great way to test that out. It's kind of like, you know, in your developing prospects, you're meeting people that you want to follow up with. And again, not the hard sales pitch right away. It's information gathering. I like that saying of, you know, playing the long game. The other analogy I have, it's kind of like gardening, right? You kind of put the seeds in the ground. If you've ever planted lettuce seeds are like practically minuscule, and there's no way you can put, you know, one lettuce seed every couple of inches the way you're supposed to. You throw it in the ground, they grow, and then you got to weed out. You know, you have to thin the plants out once they grow a certain way. And so that's how I kind of think of networking. It's planting the seeds. And then as your relationships grow with these folks, you're going to know, okay, you know, this is a great personal relationship. This is a good professional relationship that I can build on and ultimately grow. It's also about community building. And I can't stress this enough. I actually got into business assistance through doing community development work and downtown revitalization. And it became really clear to me really quickly that if I wanted anything to happen within the community, there needed to be a strong small business base, okay? I needed to make sure that our small businesses were as strong as possible because you guys are the ones that are supporting the community. You guys are helping the Scouts, you're helping the school programs, you're helping in the community. And it's a two-way street. Yes, you're helping because you want to help, but being part of the community and being integrated in the community helps your business in the long run because people will know about you. They'll know what your values are. They'll know what you stand for. And that, again, in the long run is going to benefit you in building your network and building your trust and ultimately building your clients. And then the other thing I like to think about is walking into a networking event with a perspective of how can I be of service? How can I help? A lot of us start businesses because there is a product or a service that we have found valuable in our own lives. We've found a way to solve a problem that we had, and now we want to share that solution with other people, right? And so coming at it from a perspective of service can also sort of reduce that anxiety. And so you're sitting around the table and, you know, how can I help you? You know, it's a great way to take that sales pressure off and think about coming it from a place of how can I add value? How can I be a resource to these people sitting around my networking table? Okay. So for me, making that mental shift meant it just totally changed how I approach these, and it really took the pressure off of, and I don't have that physical pain when I walk into a room, right? I actually enjoy it now because I'm approaching it very differently than I used to. Okay. So now that you've sort of shifted how you think about networking, let's kind of talk about, you know, just the practicalities. Like, how does this even work? So a few tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. One is you want to dress appropriately, but you also want to dress comfortably. Now, we're in Maine. We're a little bit more casual than in other states I've worked in, but you may want to call the event organizer and just say, hey, is this business attire, business casual? Do you not care? Just find out, because I've been the person who showed up to a networking event in jeans and everyone else is wearing suits. It's very uncomfortable. Conversely, I've been the one who wore a suit and everybody else was in jeans and I felt like, you know, a sore thumb. So it's worth giving a call. The other thing is these network events are not the place to like wear like your brand new pair of 3-inch heels, especially if you're going to like an after work event where you're going to be standing around for a couple of hours. Like, you want to be comfortable. Likewise, you don't want to wear a button-up shirt and a tie and you're spending the entire networking event feeling like you're choking to death, right? You need to be comfortable, because if you're physically comfortable, it's just one thing that's out of your mind. You're not going to be fretting about, you know, does this fit or this is itchy? You can focus on the people part and not worrying about yourself. This may seem like common sense, but I've been to enough of these networking events to know that hygiene is actually can be an issue. You don't want to go to the gym and then go directly to a networking event without showering, okay? Bring some breath mints, especially like sometimes you'll go to these networking events where they serve food and it's like full of garlic or full of olives or just something that's going to give you terrible, terrible breath. So bring breath mints and make sure that, you know, you're put together and presentable. I am especially if you're going to your first kind of networking events, you're just getting started, you don't know the lay of the land, I think it's perfectly fine to bring a buddy, whether that's a former colleague, just someone you know from your community, a friend. And when you go to this, don't sit together, like sit at different tables, try to do your own thing, but it's nice to have a touchstone, right? It's nice to have somebody that you could kind of go over and go, how you doing? I'm freaking out. Can you talk me down off the ledge? Or this is actually going really well. How are you doing, right? You have a buddy that you can check in with. I found that one of my favorite networking experiences was it was a new person I met in the community and she's like, Lori, I want you to come to this event. I'm going to take you around and introduce you to everybody. And she did. And it was really great. It took the pressure off me and it was a lovely gesture. And it was nice to have a buddy. If you don't have a built-in buddy, you can call the organizer of the event and see if they can connect you to someone. Like, for example, if it's a Chamber of Commerce event, maybe their membership coordinator, or maybe there's a board member that would be happy to, you know, meet you there and kind of take you under their wing for at least part of the event if you're really feeling uncomfortable. People are really, I find that in general, people are really good-hearted about this. They know networking is hard for a lot of people. And they want to support you. So don't be afraid to just reach out. Wear a name tag. Most of the time you can go to an event and they'll give you a name tag. I will tell you that I'm one of those people that when they hand me a name tag, it's like I've forgotten to write my own name. And I don't even have that, you know, my name's Lori. It's not that difficult, but it's like I've forgotten how to write. And so I'll write it and you can barely read it. So if you find yourself going to a lot of networking events, I highly recommend having a name tag made for you that has, you know, your name and the name of your company on it that you can just stick on and you don't have to worry about people going, what's your name? Because I get that all the time. Another thing, bring plenty of business cards. Bring twice as many as you need to, because a lot of times you go to networking events and they will have like you'll start at your table and everyone at your table gets a card, and then you'll move to another table and then everybody gets a card, and then you've got to leave some cards on the table. So bring more than you think you need. And listen, business cards are inexpensive. You can get a lot for a little bit of money. And so don't be afraid, oh, I don't want to use my business cards up. Business cards are made for networking events. The other thing, if there's anybody on here who's networking, not as a business owner, but maybe you're an employee and you saw this and you're like, oh, I need networking skills. If you're looking for a job and you're doing networking, you can have business cards made up for yourself and just have your name and your contact information. And maybe you say looking for work, or, you know, proven leader in such and such field, you know, because that way you have something to give people that they can go home and go, oh yeah, this person was looking for a job in the, you know, in food service or the food industry. And I know this person, and, you know, they can make a connection for you. So if you're going into networking just as an individual looking for a job, looking for other things, try to have your own business card. I also encourage you to set a comfortable goal for yourself. And this could look like many different things for you. Maybe it's you say, okay, I'm going to go to this for an hour, and then I'm going to give myself permission to leave. It's sort of like when you start exercising, you're like, okay, I'm going to walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And after the 10 minutes, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I can go for another 10, right? And by the time you know that you've actually walked on the treadmill for 30 minutes, not just the 10 you started with. And so giving yourself a block of time can help you, because you're like, okay, I know I'm going to give myself permission to leave. Doesn't mean you have to leave, but it means you can. You may say, okay, I'm going to talk to 5 people, then I'm out of here. Okay. Now your comfort level might be 3 people. You may build up to your comfort levels 10 or 20 people, but it's okay to start small and start taking kind of baby steps and doing what you can, because, and let me tell you, as an introvert, I come home from these networking events, even though I've enjoyed myself, I'm exhausted, right? It takes a lot out of you to be social when you're an introvert. And so you learn you have to pace yourself. Sometimes if you go to a networking event, like what you really want to do is like maybe you're going just because you really like the speaker, and maybe your goal for yourself is, I'm going to walk up and I'm going to introduce myself to the speaker and say, thank you for your work. It's really impacted me. Okay. That might be your goal. Whatever it is, set an intention before you go. And that way you can walk out feeling proud of yourself because you did something, like you accomplished a goal. And this is a situation where it's not a stretch goal. You want an achievable goal, right? And again, that's going to help you as you do more of these. You're going to build your confidence and realize, I can do this. Okay. It really is a skill that you can learn. Another thing to be aware of is body language. Now, it took me an embarrassingly long time to sort of get it through my own head that if I was giving off body language that I didn't want to talk to people, people didn't talk to me, right? So if I was like kind of sitting at the table hunched over with my arms crossed, or I was just sending out the vibe, please don't talk to me, please don't talk to me, please don't talk to me, people didn't talk to me. And that's not what you want to do at a networking event. So be aware of your own body language. Be aware of how you're carrying yourself. Conversely, you also want to kind of read the room a little bit and read the body language of other people. If you see a clump of people who are very in an animated conversation and they're really into it, just keep walking. Don't try to insert yourself into that conversation because it's going to be really, really awkward for you and for them. What I found was really helpful when I started out networking was I was going to find somebody in that room who looked as uncomfortable as I felt. And they were generally standing against one of the walls. And I would just go up to them and say, hi, I'm Lori. This is what I do. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, you could just feel the relief coming off them because they didn't have to make that first move and somebody was talking to them. And whether or not it was a fruitful conversation or not, it was a good, good experience for them and me too. And so just be wary of that. And as you get better at networking, be more cognizant of how you're welcoming people in, right? There can be some networking events that can feel like high school and really cliquey and you feel like you don't fit. And so don't grow to be that person. Be welcoming. If you're in a group and you do see someone trying to edge their way in, but looks really, they don't know what to do, bring them in and say, oh, hey, come join us, right? Be friendly, right? It's part of that building relationships and building trust. Couple of other things. You want to have some semblance of an elevator pitch memorized. It doesn't have to be this, 3-minute long explanation of what you do. In fact, the shorter the better. But you want to be able to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Lori. I'm an SBDC advisor. I help people start and grow small businesses, right? Tells you what I do. Another trick I've learned is to get people talking about themselves. People like to talk about themselves. But you want to ask them open-ended questions. You don't want to ask them yes and no questions. So for example, someone has a sticker and it says their name and the name of their photography business. And so, whoa, what kind of photography do you do? Because there's actually all sorts of wedding, you could be a wedding photographer, you could do a portrait photography, you could be a commercial photographer. Get them talking about themselves and their business and their clients. Eventually, they're going to come around and ask you the same stuff, but at least you can get into a conversation that way. Sometimes I meet people and they tell me what they're doing and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know anything about that, right? And so I always say, oh, I don't know anything about that. Tell me more. And they'll tell me what they do. And I always learn something new. Always learn something new at these events. Another good one to have in your pocket is, what do you enjoy most about your work, right? And that can lead to a conversation. And so you don't necessarily have to use these examples, but have a few sort of open-ended questions in your mind so that when you're sitting next to somebody and you don't know what to say, you can kind of pull that out of your pocket. Very helpful. Another sort of set of questions to have in your mind, conversation stuff, is finding common ground with people, right? And it does not have to be business related. It can be something as simple as, do you have kids? I talk about my daughter more than I probably should. People like to talk about their kids, and you may have just the fact of being a parent, you automatically have a lot in common. Hobbies, shared hobbies. Do you golf? Oh, I really like baseball. I'm a total Red Sox fan, and finding other Red Sox fans may help you get to know people. Or, now that people are actually taking vacations, oh, where have you been on vacation lately? Where's your favorite vacation? Things like that. Very simple things that can lead you into conversations that can kind of deepen those, as you're getting to know people, that deepens that relationship, and then you can kind of see where that goes. It might be a friend, it might just be someone you wave to at the next networking meeting, or it may be somebody who down the road becomes your client. Again, think about the long road. Another thing that took me painfully long to learn is that when someone gives you a business card at these events, don't just stick them in your jacket pocket. Because that's exactly what I would do. And then a month later, when I would wear the jacket again, or I'd take it to the dry cleaners, I'd fish a bunch of business cards out of my pocket. I would have no idea, no recollection of these people, and they'd wind up in the trash. Okay. Half of networking is what you do after the event. Okay. Half of it is what you're doing at the event, and then after it, your job doesn't end once you walk out of it. You got to follow up with people. It can be as simple as connecting someone on LinkedIn or sending them an email, but you want to follow up with people. And what can help you do that is if you carry around a pen, once you've talked to somebody, they may walk away, take a second to jot on the back of their business card part of your conversation, because that's going to help you remind you of who you talked to and what you talked about. And it might be, lives in Brunswick, or came up here from Saco. It might be has a dog, or something that's going to help jog your memory of who this person is and why you want to remember them. And it may be that, oh, I said I'd send him some information, right? Write it on the back of the business card. So when you get home, you can go through your card and say, oh yeah, I need to do that, and then actually do it. Give yourself a break if you need to, whether if it's go hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes, go take a walk around the building, take a breather, take a break. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's perfectly fine to take a break and then dive back in when you feel like you can handle it. So getting back to the chat, I would love if you can tell me, is there anything that you found in your networking journey that's helped you? What works for you? Is there anything you think other people could benefit from hearing? Because I'm telling you my experience, because that's all I got. But is there anything that you haven't heard me talk about that you feel like has worked for you, or you think other people can, yes, talk about the things you love, talk about your passions. People really, that resonates with people, even if they don't share that passion. I will tell you, I can find a knitter a mile away. Like I'm sort of an obsessive knitter, and I can talk about knitting for hours. We can have nothing else in common, but I can talk about knitting. Yes, sharing the fact that I don't love networking up front. Yeah, because you're showing your vulnerability, right? If you have an issue with being vulnerable, go read Brene Brown books. She's all over. She has a great TED Talk. You can find her on YouTube. She talks a lot about the importance of being vulnerable and the power of vulnerability. And again, especially with women, I find that being willing to admit, like, this is not my thing. I feel really uncomfortable. People are willing to help you because you're being brave and you're showing your vulnerability. Yes, if you feel self-conscious, be really curious about other people. And that's exactly what I do. I just try to get other people talking and hear and listen to what they have to say. And so the focus, my internal focus isn't on me, it's external. And I think for a lot of us, when we do these networking events, we're so wrapped up in our heads that we need to get out of our heads and really focus on the people we're talking to. Let's see if I missed anything else. Yeah, have a Zoom coffee hour with me, yep. Okay, let's see if anything else. One new message. Yes, it's funny because in another slide, I actually talk about, if in fact you try this and it still isn't working for you, or if you don't feel ready yet to join in-person events, having those one-on-one Zoom meetings, just letting people know, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about what you do. Do you half and half an hour? And we can have coffee over Zoom. Totally fine. People do it all the time. Do as much listening as talking. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I try to be very conscious of when I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking, I switch into question mode and start asking questions and trying to get other people to talk, because you don't want to be the person dominating the conversation. Okay. Humor, yes, but like keep that humor in check. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, because there's humor and then there's like inappropriate joke humor that you don't want to go there. Anything else? What else has worked for folks? Give it another
Just as
minute.
an add-on to the humor, one person mentioned silly sheep stories if you sell wool. And so definitely if you have like cute animals that produce your product,
yes,
baby animal photos are a great way to win over strangers.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Pictures of your dog. I've been known to show people pictures of my daughter. She is super cute and she's a redhead. So, but I have no shame. Okay, so let me continue on. Things to avoid. Now, hopefully it goes without saying, politics and religion, just avoid them, right? Unless your church is doing some sort of networking event. We live in an incredibly divided world right now, and getting into politics and religion can just be a recipe for disaster. You don't want your table to erupt in a shouting match or, God forbid, a fist fight. So avoid really controversial topics. Generally speaking, you also want to avoid any salty language. These networking events are not where you want to be constantly dropping F-bombs or other inappropriate language for the public. And, inappropriate jokes. Again, this should go without saying, but, just, what I mean when I say inappropriate jokes. Another thing that you want to be mindful of is what I call liquid courage. A lot of times these events, there's either an open bar or they're giving you drink tickets. And it's very easy when you're uncomfortable in these situations to feel like, oh, I'm going to have a couple glasses of wine or a couple beers and then I'm great. Well, that can often lead to disaster. Okay, you don't want to be the one who's known for being the guy or the woman who wound up, dancing on the table. Extreme example, but or being the loud drunk at a networking event. And I've actually seen this happen, and it's embarrassing. Like, everybody feels embarrassed for you. You feel embarrassed the next day. So if this is a way that you have found to deal with your anxiety is drinking, try to scale that back. Try to be very mindful of what you're consuming before you go into these events. These are professional events, no matter how casual they may seem. The other thing I want to just, again, sort of common sense, but I've seen it happen, is you want to be mindful of what you say about people. Particularly here in Maine, we are in a small state. I went the other day and bought something off Marketplace, and it turned out the lady knows two of my best friends. How I've never met this woman, I don't know. But this happens to me all the time, where I meet people and it turns out they know a relative, or they are a relative that I've never met. That happens too. So be really careful what you say, because if you make a bad comment about somebody, chances are you're sitting across the table from their brother, their wife, their cousin, their ex-mother-in-law. So really be careful of what you say, okay? Anything other things that you feel like you should avoid? Have any of you had any horror stories and you're like, oh God, I can't believe this is happening at a networking event?
In my experience, part of the hygiene is perhaps not wearing perfume.
Oh
because
my
I
gosh.
have smelled
Yes.
that room before I have walked into it a number of times.
That is such an excellent point. Absolutely. Absolutely. You kind of want to make sure that you're not over people. You want people to talk to you before they smell you. You don't want people to smell you. Even if you think you smell really good, you definitely want to dial that back. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay. Another thing, I'm running a little behind, but a lot of drinking. Yeah. It's when you run into situations where you have to extricate yourself from a conversation, whether it's going on too long or it's just you're not comfortable, or in this example where you might be at an event where there's a lot of drinking and you kind of want to pull yourself away from a group that's clearly had too much. How do you do that? Now for me, excuse me, I need to go to the ladies' room it sounds lame, but it works because no one's going to ask you questions about that. A lot of times you can just say, it's been so nice talking with you. Do you have a card? And they'll give you your card and say, I'm going to go mingle now, but it's really nice to talk to you. And that's the more polite way. Maybe it's saying, oh, you know what, I've really got to get some water. Can I get you anything? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh no, that's fine. It's, nice to meet you. So it's not just getting into conversations at these events that can be anxiety provoking, it's also getting out of them. And so if you have any tips that have worked for you in getting out of those conversations, I'd love to see those in the chat as well. Yep. Drink seltzer and don't even mention it. Yep. Diet Coke. Nobody needs to know there's no rum in it. Okay. After the event, we've talked a lot. Yeah, introduce them to someone else. Absolutely. And then casually walk away. Absolutely. So after the event, we've already talked about a lot of this stuff, but go through those business cards, take note of any notes you've made, connect with people on LinkedIn. If there's somebody that you really want to, follow up with, send them an email. But it's also important to kind of take a step back and think about, was this a good experience for you? Was there value to you going to this event? Because you want to weigh the time and the cost versus the outcomes. And it might take you 2 or 3 events put on by the same organization to decide if it's right for you or not. Maybe it's something you go to once or twice a year rather than monthly. It's okay, but it's important for you to take a step back and just say, is this really right? Did this feel good? What went well? What can I improve on next time? Have that conversation with yourself, or especially if you brought a buddy, have that conversation with your buddy. What did you learn? Okay. Walking into this as a learning experience is, again, reshaping how you think about it. What did you learn? How are you going to take that learning and apply it either to your business or to your life in general? And then reward yourself, right? I don't care if it's a really great coffee the next morning. Maybe you're going to go buy yourself, a treat the next day for getting through it. It's important to reward and recognize that you did something hard that made you uncomfortable and you survived and it wasn't so bad after all. Yeah. Don't feel awkward about following up with people because that's why you're there. And 9 times out of 10, people are going to be grateful that you followed up with them because they're the ones who are feeling like, oh, I don't know if I should do this or not. Just do it. That's why we're at networking events, is to meet people. And I just knocked over an entire bottle of Diet Coke. So that's what that was. Speaking of feeling like awkward. Okay. So we're going to try this out. We are going to put you in breakout rooms. It's your worst fear come true. We're going to do this for probably 5 minutes. We're going to get into a breakout room and I'm going to have you do 2 things. Okay, there's probably going to be 4 people, maybe. I'm not entirely sure how many people we have on here, but there'll be anywhere from 3 to 5 people in your breakout room. And I want you to just take those few minutes, introduce yourself, number 1, and 2, find common ground between you guys. I don't care what it is. It could be something simple as all of our favorite color is blue. It could be we all have kids. I don't care what it is. I saw some at the beginning of the chat. There are 2 people here who originally came from San Francisco. Okay, common ground. You will find it. And just see how that goes for you. Try out everything we've talked about so far today. Try it out. 5 minutes, you can get through it. Don't drop off because there's a couple more slides. Okay, folks are coming back from the breakout rooms here. Now I can actually see what people look like. You got room 1 back, it looks like. How'd it go, guys? Ladies?
It went great.
Your group overachievers.
Nice.
Yes.
Is that your commonality? You're all overachievers?
Just one more thing to add to the list now.
Yeah,
That's great.
3 common things and networks. What were your 3 common things?
Would you prefer we spoke up or put it in the chat?
Oh, you can
whatever
talk.
you're comfortable with. I'm easy.
Oh, well, overachievers.
Jewelry guarding and the color black. Gotcha. All right. Are we all back now? Everybody
I think
back?
so.
Okay. So how was that? You can we lost, and I knew this would happen the minute I said breakout rooms, a bunch of people booked on out. That's why I saved it for last. But I felt like you couldn't do a session like this without, making people practice it a little bit. So how was that for you? Good, bad, ugly? You can either speak up or just put it in the comments. Was it easy to photography in common? You lost 1 person, yeah. Was it easy to find some common ground? Or did you struggle? Many connections. Welcome to Maine. I live in Brunswick. Yes. Okay, good. Easy, it was really nice. Okay, photography. We had a task, yes, enjoyed it. Okay, good, I'm glad. So you can see, now I know this wasn't in person, but you were meeting people that you probably don't know and you survived. And now you can kind of take that, build your confidence a little bit more. And next time you go to a networking event, think about, how do I find common ground with this person I'm talking to? And again, it doesn't have to be a business. It can be, whatever. So I just have a couple things. We're running a little bit over. So just a couple more things. And Kelsey will send you the slides, but some resources on the left of the screen are just some, actual groups or Toastmasters. Like if you feel uncomfortable talking in groups, I highly recommend Toastmasters. They're a great way to get more comfortable. It puts you on the spot. It forces you to get out of your comfort zone, but sometimes that's what we all need. And then there's just a list of other places that have networking opportunities, some that you may know about, like, your local chamber, but also think about some of the service groups like Kiwanis, Lions, Rotary. You may have industry trade groups, alumni associations, Meetup. It's a website and there's also an app. You can find networking events on Meetup. And then over here, there's a couple of videos on, networking. Two of them are very focused on towards introverts. And I think it's this third one. He's actually hysterically funny. And I was going to try to show a clip, but I didn't want to. I was afraid it wouldn't work because sometimes when you do these things, bringing in additional media fails. So, and then this is a great article too about, the key to networking. So, any questions that you want to throw out there that we maybe didn't talk about? You can either, again, shout it out or put it in the chat. This is my contact information. If you don't have an advisor and you'd like to speak with somebody, you can just go to mainesbdc.org. There's a request advisor button there. And most of our webinars are recorded and they go onto our YouTube channel. And so if there's anything else you're looking for assistance with, this is a great place to start because we've archived these. We've done, since the pandemic started, I don't even know how many we've done now. Kelsey could probably tell you. And they're really good. I work with such wonderful advisors. They're all brilliant. They all have wonderful insight and knowledge. And I love that it's being put on YouTube where people can find it and view it. So I would encourage you to do that. So questions, good. I'm glad, Molly, that this was helpful. I hope it was helpful for all of you. I hope it gave you, some things to think about, some things to try out. And, the next time you go to a networking event, I would love to shoot me an email and say, hey, Lori, I was at your webinar. I went to a networking event and this is what happened. Let me know, because I would love to hear your experiences. And if you ever see me at a networking event, please come up and say hi, because I am more than happy to chat. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lori. I'm seeing lots of thank yous coming in.
Yes. Thank you, guys. I really hope this was helpful. Again, I've been there, done that. I spilled my Diet Coke while I was talking. So hopefully if I ever do meet you in person, I won't spill my Diet Coke on you. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.